Good morning, my fellow Michiganders. Good morning, my fellow Americans. Welcome to the Grassroots Army podcast. And I am, of course, your host, former Michigan gubernatorial candidate Garrett Soldano. And I'm really excited to have Mr. Michael Hoover on this morning talking about his run for the U.S. Senate. So, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Garrett. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on because this is one of the main reasons why I developed this platform is to give everyone, to bypass the corporate media and all the other hot garbage, but give folks like yourself a shot to come on here and really speak to the people one-on-one. And so basically, this is just going to be your time, sir. So let's get right into it. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you putting your family through this? That's for sure.
Yeah. So it came down to the fact that when COVID hit and they started shutting down our churches and our schools, our small businesses, I'm a small business owner, it hit home. And so I got real loud about it. And I just was looking at how my wife and I were able to live the American dream. And now I'm looking at my 4 children and 9 grandchildren, and the opportunity that they have is not the same that I had. So that's really there was the thrust of what was going on. And then, of course, I looked at the fact that what my grandparents and their parents and all the sacrifices that have been made to make America such an amazing place was just being tossed away. So that's what got me in the fight. And I'm here to win it.
Well, that's great. I did not know that you have 9 grandchildren.
I
So,
do.
question: do you go by Papa, Grandpa? What do they call you?
They call me Grandy.
Grandy? That's cool.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Angie, and they call it Angie Ama. So it's Ama and Grandy.
That's good. That's good stuff. Well, why the U.S. Senate? Why not like Michigan State Rep or even Congress or, even your local school boards? Why did you go big?
So I've been always DC focused. Actually, when I was getting really loud, I was being recruited to run for governor. But at the time, we had one of our small businesses was going through a sale process, and one of them was doing 2 renovations. So it wasn't a good time. But I've always felt like the biggest issues that we face are DC, and a lot of the background and my experience works well with regards to the DC issues. So, being a small business owner is a kind of a misnomer because I worked for the Dow Chemical Company and then I worked globally for over 30 years. So I have a pretty good understanding of what the world looks like in terms of energy, in terms of materials and cultures and relationships. So, and then certainly from a big business also to a small business perspective, we bring a lot of experience there. And then also my wife and I, we lived in Detroit. We've lived in the suburbs of Detroit. We've lived in farm town and we lived in small towns. So we can relate to a lot of people, not only just across our state, but across the country as well.
Yeah, let's get into what you just said, especially energy. I am huge into energy. Obviously, you and I talked briefly right before the interview that one of the things that I ran on was to bring nuclear power back. To invest in these new technologies, the reactors that are very safe. And to me, it's the only common sense solution as of right now that is energy dense. It's going to provide the electricity that we're going to need, especially with all of the electric cars and everything else that they're going to plug in. But our governor here in the state of Michigan continues to focus on solar and wind. And in 2040, they're now saying that they want to be carbon neutral. So what are your thoughts on that? And what is your plan to make us energy independent?
So I guess the first thing to say is that it's not a serious conversation to talk about going completely off of renewable sources. It's just not. It's not even possible. It's not even real. It's not a real conversation. Currently, the globe depends upon oil. I think we use 99 million barrels a day. That's not going to go away overnight. That's going to be with us for a long time to come. The next real source of energy that is going to make America and is currently working right now to our benefit in a great deal, and it's going to continue to happen, is our shale gas, natural gas. That between the oil and the natural gas, that's going to be the difference maker for the United States in terms of our future and making sure that things are low cost, not only from a living standpoint, but also from manufacturing. And when you start to look at the geopolitical situation that's going around the world, we're going to actually deglobalize. We're going to deglobalize for a couple of reasons. One is that the American electorate is tired of policing the whole world. The only reason why shipments move across, and I should also kind of make a comment that there's over 200 million shipments that take place per year. Those are all done with fossil fuels. So again, it's not a real conversation to hear people like the governor talk like that. But the as we deglobalize, what's going to happen is that places like the United States are going to improve in terms of manufacturing, in terms of our energy sector. And we're going to see more of our manufacturing come home. China is set to implode, and the reason why is because they basically did it backwards. They've borrowed so much money. They've actually borrowed 3 to 5 times more than we have in terms of their debt ratio. And then also when they put in the one child, and then they were just picking, the one sex, they basically shot themselves in the foot where they're not going to have enough workers. They're aging out, and so that's just a matter of time. So China is in a really serious problem, and you're going to see because we're not going to have our Navy policing the whole world in terms of shipments. Shipments are going to be more like closer to home. We're going to take care of those. If we ever need to go get something from across the seas, America can do that because we're the strongest Navy in the world. But we're going to start bringing more and more business back home because of that factor. So energy becomes really important. And I do like reactor technology as well. It's a great technology. The new technologies can actually burn used nuclear waste. So
Yeah.
technologies, that's a great technology. But if you were to ask me to where I was going to hang my hat, it's the shale, the natural gas, and oil. That's we still going to be required upon to drive our future.
So 2 questions regarding who is China borrowing their money from? Do you know?
So they actually create a lot of their own money. They just do the same thing that we do. They have their own central bank, and so what they do is just make it up. And so they print money, but they print it so much, that they're in serious debt. And then, like I mentioned there, with regards to the working population. So we have an issue here too. But thanks to our millennials, we have a great population of millennials. We're gonna be okay. But what's happening is that you think about baby boomers. Well, that's taken place in China. That's taken place in a lot of other countries as well that are aging out. Germany is another one. Russia is another one. And what happens is that as you age out, well, what do? We retire, and we don't spend near as much money. So we're not consuming as much. And when you don't consume as much, you don't need as much. And so the whole system starts to collapse out from underneath itself. Because we do have the millennials here, we're going to be okay. And the fact that some of the policies that I'm putting forth, I think will help, because when I talk about protecting the family, one of the things that I say to do is we need to incentivize marriage, and we want to incentivize more children. So what we say is no longer should we penalize low-income mom and dads when they get married. Because, as you know, in 1964, we did this thing called the War on Poverty. Turned out it was the assault on the family. And what happened is that we've had generations of single-parent homes. That's the number one issue that we have to overcome, is getting families back together. Because we know when we have dads back home, discipline goes up, the performance and education goes up, income goes up. So that's something we really want to do. And the next thing we say on the millennials is that when you get married, we'll give you a nice juicy tax credit, and each additional year that you stay married will increase the tax credit. Millennials want to get married. 85% of them do agree that the way to go is a 2-parent home. They just need a little bump to get them going.
So let's go into, let's say you get through the primary, which you guys have a lot of competition. We have Chief James Craig, who continues to lose consultants. Obviously, Mike Rogers, who just came out and said, he's gotten 27,000 of, I think, the 30,000 signatures you guys need to get on the ballot. Alexandria Taylor, who will be coming on the podcast here soon, and along with Dr. Sherry O'Donnell, who is also running. So it's very crowded. And
Yes.
Again, it just shows that we have a lot of great people that are running, and that's one of the things that I'd love to see is ordinary people doing extraordinary things. However, with politics, as you're fully aware of, it's fundraising is huge, as we're going to talk about also. But let's say you get through the primary, right? You win the primary and you're up against, I think, what Slotkin is running. I mean, who's
It'll be
basically in the
slacking.
lead.
Yeah,
And we all know that the corporate media, controls the narrative. If
that's
you
right.
tell a lie long enough, people start to believe it, and they control social media, they control the corporate media, and so they're going to come out with their sunshine and rainbows and how Michigan's going to go carbon neutral by 2040, 2050, and how solar and wind's going to do it, and all of these money grabbing, crazy capitalists, right wing extremists, these Republicans are going to destroy their earth with their oil and their gas and their nuclear energy. And they're going to paint that picture, right? Nonstop. And that's what they do. And they're already running with the narrative after the speaker was elected on election denier, right? That
Right,
they're homophobe and they're Trump supporters. That's
right.
everybody in the news cycle was saying the same gosh darn talking points. And that's what they're really good at. So how are you going to compete with that? Because what I'm hearing right now, Michael, is you need to raise $50 million on the low end for this race.
That's
I
correct.
mean,
Yeah,
and even, I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean,
it
even
is a lot of money. Yeah,
grassroots candidates like ourselves, I raised 2.2 million, which was astronomical for the governor's race, but I would have had to come in with 20 to 30 million more after the primary, and we have 3 months to do that. I mean, it's just a lot of money. And can
right.
you inspire these donors to get behind your vision, especially to combat the narrative that they're going to paint on you?
So that was a lot, but
Right.
let's that's okay. Let's try to unpack a little bit. So what's happening is the voters in Michigan are looking hard to find an outsider. They do not want an insider. So Mike Rogers, while he has the establishment funding behind him, and that's the only reason why he's got those 27,000 signatures, is because he paid for them. Well, his donors paid for him, and his donors is basically the military-industrial complex, because that's where he's from, and that's where he's on the board of directors. That's how he set himself up when he wrote CISPA and the Patriot Act. He's the reason why that you and I are being watched on our computers, our cell phones, our TVs. He's the one that put through FISA. So this is not somebody that people are going to want to get behind. Oh, I forgot. He also supported the Iraq War, and under his watch, our debt increased 500%. So that's him.
And I
the,
and I think should people know. I mean, not only if he's ex FBI, right?
he's ex FBI.
And
Yep.
then we got
He's from.
Slotkin,
They're
Slotkin's an
they're
ex
both they're one
CIA
and the same. That's
analyst.
right.
So
There's not much difference, right? And well, I forgot to mention that both of their spouses benefited directly and greatly from their members being in office. So Slotkin's husband was a lobbyist, and they received government contracts. And the same for Rogers' wife. She was elevated to the CEO of a company called Aegis, and she received billions in dollars of contracts. It's been reported by a newspaper out in California that it was her company that was responsible for watching over Benghazi when it fell. And that's really one of the reasons why I think that they both stepped down very quickly. And then he exited, and then he moved to Florida. And I believe he still lives in Florida. I'm not sure if he has a Michigan license or driver's license yet or not. But that being said, this is an insider that used the government to benefit himself personally. With regards to Chief Craig, you just got to look at how he behaved when we needed him most. And that was when the COVID lockdowns took place. He tucked tail and ran. So this is somebody that just doesn't have the wherewithal and the strength. And I don't think he quite has the experience to understand what we need from a geopolitical standpoint, energy, how to run a business, how government needs to be run properly. And then he's also, there was also an article that was sent to us where in Cincinnati, he was actually advocating for more gun control. So he's been talking out of both sides of his mouth throughout his career. So he's also been a Democrat most of his life as well. So really what it comes down to is that the rest of the Michigan voters are really looking for somebody that's an outsider, that's going to be looking at three things. One is they want somebody that's going to protect them. They want them to protect their rights. They want to protect their children. They want to protect the border, to protect their country, protect business. That's number one. Number two is they want an economy that actually works for them. We see all this. We do see some nice growth, but the problem is a lot of that growth is taking place because of the government spending. They put that into GDP. So when you actually look at the number, it's government that's growing. Government now is the fastest and largest employer in the United States of America. The most wealthiest counties connected are in the DC Beltway, not in New York, not in California, the DC Beltway. So we actually need an economy that works for you. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like as the geopolitical changes take place, and these winds of change are going to happen really fast over the next decade or two, where we're going to see jobs coming back home, manufacturing coming home. We're actually going to start doing some very advanced technologies, as well as doing some stuff that we used to do a long time ago and we outsourced to China. And other places around the country, around the world. So we need great energy policy. We need to deregulate. One of the reasons why we had an issue with our infant formula is because the regulations are so odorous that we only have two or maybe three infant milk suppliers. And the reason why is because they create these regulations to keep competition out. It takes almost $500 million to start an infant formula plant. That doesn't make sense to anyone. We actually need more competition, and so that's one of the reasons we need to drive that. And then the dollar. We actually need a dollar that holds its value. Over my lifetime, the cost of living has increased almost 2,000%. And what that's done is basically devalued the working men and women's time. So we need to stop the spending. We need to cut back, and there's great opportunities for us to reduce our spending. We spend more than the next 10 countries combined in military. We also spend more money on health in this country than any other developed nation, not even close. So there's vast amounts of opportunity for us to reduce our costs and get our budget balanced, as we did around the year 99, 2000. Newt Gingrich held the reins, and he worked with Clinton, and they got it done. So we can do that. We can do that again, and that's really what's critical for us to get our country moving again. So I'm trying to remember the other. Oh, you talked about fundraising. So one of the things that happened when we launched, I took about a year and a half to get ready to do this. And as I was doing it, I was looking at the geopoliticals, looking at local, looking at the major issues that we have to take on. Certainly, American manufacturing, energy, those are huge parts of it. Also, the family that I talked about, growing our families. And as I was putting the policies together, I started having opportunities to go meet with the largest conservative constitutional organizations in our country, and those include SOCON, which is the Social Conservative Conference. I got invited to come down there, and when I did, then I got to meet a lot of the donors, as well as the people that have a lot of the great policies that are so good for our country. And then that opened the door for me to go to the Heritage Foundation, where I got to go to the 50th anniversary gala, speak to the donors, and also meet with all the heritage people. And that opened the door for me to go to the National Policy Council. Same thing happened again. And that allowed me to get invited to Freedom Works, Club for Growth, and the Beckett Law Fund. All of these organizations are very focused, laser focused on getting things right for us here in America. And what basically I've been told is that go win your primary, get your signatures. And if I can do a shout out, and Garrett, I just want to thank you again for this opportunity, because you've got such a great following, and all the work and all the effort and everything you did to get to where you're at right now, to have all these great people following you is amazing. So I greatly appreciate you opening the door for me to do this, but we need your help. We've got quite a few thousand signatures ourselves. We've done it the old-fashioned way. We've earned them, and but we're looking for help from volunteers, and we're actually starting to pay for signatures ourselves, because we want to get this done so that we can win this election and get our country back going in the right spot. So Hoover for Senate, there's an opportunity for you to jump in there and join our team, and I promise you, there's a slew of people waiting to say welcome and Hoover up.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we do this, is like I said before, is just giving people a platform, because I understand how hard it is. I had a movement of wonderful people behind us when we ran, and you do need the people. And that's one thing that a lot of these career politicians have forgotten, is the people and who
That's
they represent
exactly
as
it.
public servants. And
Yeah,
so,
that's the third component. So I talked about protecting Americans. The second is an economy that works for them, and the third, you just hit it right out of the ballpark, is actually having a representative that is of, by, and for the people. and that's who I am. That's who my family is. My wife and I are high school sweethearts, so we're pretty well grounded. We're from a very similar area from where you're at. People don't know that Garrett and I actually grew up not too far from each other. I'm just a little bit older than he is, but down in the Irish Hills. She was 15, I was 17. We married 3 years later, and she helped me get through school at Northwood, and then from Northwood I went to Dow. We had 2 kids when I graduated from Northwood, and thanks to my lovely wife that I was able to get through that, and then I got the job at Dow, and then I helped change the front of the car, and then eventually that allowed me to start my own business for first of 4 businesses. But to kind of come back to one of the things you said on Slotkin and how do we defeat Slotkin? Certainly, I've got the funds and the ability to raise the funds with all those massive organizations. We would love more than anything than to have people donate $5 and $10, and that would be my preferred way to go. But nonetheless, we can take on Slotkin because our message is not one of division. We're not victims, and the fact that we've lived all over the state and we understand it. We're not binary in our choices, meaning that you don't have to necessarily frame things that say I'm for Israel or I'm for Palestine. You know what? We can be for both. We can be for both the individual people that are trying to live in those countries and survive and make things happen. And so one of the policies I did come out with is that I'd love to see us put in a force from the Arab nations, including ourselves. We take control of the situation right away. Yes, Hamas has got to be taken out, no doubt about it. That's a terrorist organization that needs to be dealt with. But what we don't want to see is to see in poor, families. My wife said it right away as soon as the war started. She said, some women are having babies right now in both countries, and I said, yeah. That's the way. That's a good way to look at it, and what a bigger way to look at things. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is, to say that we can't use renewable energy is silly as well. The plain states are great for wind. You want to go for some places that are good for solar, or go where the sun shines. Denver gets more sunshine than any other state. There's good opportunities for solar and wind, but it's only in places that it makes sense. It does not make sense in the state of Michigan. It's one of the worst energy forms that we have here. So when we talk to these things, we just got to talk to people on a level that people can say, God, I can trust that. I can believe in that. That's somebody that, really is speaking the truth and sees the bigger picture. And that's why I know that we can win this. And she's got so much baggage, as you know, Garrett.
Yeah.
She's done a lot of things that are not just wrong, but also criminally wrong. And certainly indecent when it comes to children as well.
And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head is, they're going to paint us all as, radical right wing extremists and everything else. And that's
Yeah,
the hard part when they control the airways and they have the money and the donors that come in, the Marxist
yeah,
people that want to basically destroy our country, rip it apart, keep us fighting amongst each other. So the people can't continue to do what we need to do, that's to have intelligent conversation. And
yeah,
I agree with you on the energy, the all above approach, especially with solar and wind. But again, we drive through Michigan and you see these solar wind farms or solar powered farms or solar panel farms, excuse me. I mean, they're just not only an eyesore, but nobody's talking about, the strip mining that needs to happen to get the rare earth metals to make the solar, and they're toxic. So what's going to do when their life is up in 20 years? Who's going to be responsible for the cleanup? And not only that, the pesticides and weed killers that you basically contaminated the soil. So there's no longer usage for farmland. It just goes on and on. And, when you have these conversations with people, they don't know, they don't understand. They're like, well,
yep.
it's going to be great. And it's like,
I
no,
think,
there's more to
yeah,
it.
but that's why it's so important for us to, every time that they put out something that is false, we've got to make sure that we have our facts right available right away, and we can point to independent sources so
Yeah.
that people can go and say, yeah, that makes sense. That doesn't make sense. And, people will figure out pretty quickly. And it's not so much that we have to win every single vote. I mean, I would love to, but the independents are going to carry the day. And so, if we talk to them honestly and provide really sound, basic, good information to them, they're going to come our way. it just so happens Michigan actually is on 51% plus on conservative. So we just got to get our voters to come out, and we got to give them a reason to come out, and we got to give them some hope. And I think that's what the Hoover campaign, the Hoover family, and my wife and I, that's what we're here to do, is get people motivated. Like, yes, we finally have somebody that understands the bigger picture in terms of the global geopolitical issues, and also understands how important small businesses are and families and all the different issues that go on. And my wife and we've had a lot of different experiences in our life, and so we can relate to people. And I'll give you just a couple, Garrett. One is that when my wife was 5 years old, her little sister was 4, and the baby sister was to be born in the next week. Their dad was shot and killed, and that was tragic, and that was a very awful situation. But what it did is that the experience of that, it made my wife tougher and made me tougher, and also opened my eyes to understand what it's like to live in a single parent home, and what that was like. We've also went through cancer. My wife had to overcome breast cancer, and we won, and we beat that. We are also a young family, and of course, living in Detroit, we truly did live in Detroit. We lived on Grayton, so we've been into Detroit half a dozen times, and we know we're going to get a good section of Detroiters voting for us, because we're speaking to the two most important things to them. When the economy is critical for them, absolutely, and they are absolutely getting killed right now. $15 an hour is laughable. We want them to get to $40 an hour. That's why I kind of laugh when I talk about people like Slack and go, yeah, we got to get them to a minimum wage. It's like, that's ridiculous. You can't hardly live off of that in today's world, because of the cost of living has gone up so high because of the ridiculous spending and misallocation of resources such as solar and wind. And so the fact that my wife and I, we've raised the 4 kids, we now have 9 grandchildren. We've lived a lot of life. We've experienced a lot of things. You don't just start 4 small businesses and have them successful, and of course make mistakes along the way. We learn from our mistakes, without having some experience and some knowledge and some wherewithal to win and to do what's right for our employers, our family, our neighbors, our communities. And that's why I feel really good about what we're doing here. If I didn't feel like this was the right thing for the state, I wouldn't do this. Matter of fact, one of the things, the first thing I did, Garrett, is I started going to the political consultants when I was considering running for governor. And I reached out to them and I said, please tell me why I shouldn't do this. Walk me off this cliff. And I really did want to hear, I wanted them to tell me why I shouldn't do this. The only thing I heard, honestly, was that you're not a multimillionaire. I said, well, that's not enough reason for me. And they said, no, and it shouldn't be. You would be a good servant to our state, to our country. So that's why I've committed myself and dedicated myself to making this happen.
Well, you mentioned spending. So let's say you're in Congress right now. Are you sending money to Ukraine?
So here's the issue on Ukraine. Ukraine has the second largest fields in terms of wheat production.
Yep.
They're also a large oil producer.
Yep.
So one of the things you have to be careful with Russia, and we can get into the discussion of why Putin did what he did. I don't trust Putin in any regard, but if you kind of look at how we kind of goaded him into this war by continuing to push our interests forward, and the fact that we took out their president, the fact that that's when he took Crimea back, because he's like, well, hey, that's how I protect my country from a naval standpoint. And then we had Blinken and Biden, pushing the envelope further to have put NATO into Ukraine. That was kind of his red line. But nonetheless, and this war should have never happened. Talking about protecting the people, President Trump, he has it right. He would have been out in front of this and said, wait a minute, we're not going to put NATO into Ukraine. Ease back, Putin. We're gonna work this out and make sure that we don't go to war. But Biden, I think they kind of wanted war because they make a lot of money from it.
So how do you fix it now, though?
Yeah, now this is what I say, is that what we can't have happen. We can't let Russia take Ukraine. We just can't have that happen. But what we should be doing right now, which we should be at the table, we should be pushing back so that we get this war ended and get it done immediately. We don't need to throw any more money at it. What we need to throw is sound resolution, because China and Russia, they're racist against each other. I don't know if people know that or not, but they generally don't like each other. And we're pushing them. We're actually pushing them together. So we need to go in, sit down with Russia, and get this resolved as fast as we can. And we can, and like I said, we can do this. We just have to do some negotiations on how this is going to look. No, we're not going to let them have Ukraine. Do we do something with some space in Crimea or something like that? I think so, but we can resolve it, and we don't need to continue to throw billions of dollars at it. It's not going to really help the situation. And all we've done is devastate a country. I mean, absolutely devastate a country, and that is morally, financially, politically wrong on all accords. The other thing, we got one bad guy working with another bad guy, and so we just need to separate the two and make some peace happen there.
And speaking of bad people, I want to hit on, because we have a few more minutes here, is the invasion of the southern border. And I saw on your
Yes.
website, you're saying build a wall, obviously.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do we do after we finish the wall? And we have 8 million illegals in here. And I did the math. Even 1% of 8 million is a lot of military age men from all corners of the earth, probably up to no good right now. And obviously with our corrupt FBI, CIA, and everything else, they would rather spend their time and energy on the domestic terrorist of moms standing up at school boards and these radical right MAGA folks who they continue to paint us as extremists. So
Right.
how are you going to fix that situation? Obviously build the wall. We all can
Yeah.
agree with that. Then what? We have 8 million.
I just want to knock down one of the talking points that you hear from the left from every once in a while. They say, well, Trump actually made it easier because he built roads to the wall to build the wall. Well, people don't think that people can just walk over any terrain. I mean, the reason why we needed roads, not only did we need the roads to go build the wall, but we actually needed the roads so that we could drive our vehicles to secure the wall and the right. So it's actually kind of silly. And so what Trump was doing was good. And actually, what I would encourage our next president to do, and if it's President Trump, I think he will do this, but I would declare an emergency and I'd send the military down there and I would secure the border right away, because it's going to take time to build a wall. And not that any of us are against immigration. Heck, we're all immigrants in some form or fashion, and we love good immigration, and we love the fact that there's people that want to come here that generally want to work, they want to raise their family, and some people are doctors and some people are engineers, and so those are all positive things. I've got friends that actually have come over to our country from different places in the world. So we need to get the border under control, though, and so that we control who comes into our home. And that's how we should look at it. We should look at America as our home, just like we wouldn't let any stranger just come into our home. We need to make sure that we know we are vetting properly who's coming into our country. So in terms of the 8 million people here, we need to go vet them. We got to check them out. We got to find out what they're all about, what they're doing, and how they're operating, because to carry a nuclear bomb or some kind of nasty bomb across the border is not that difficult. It's only 50 to 100 pounds. So those are really frightening things that you talk about needing to protect people and being the number one priority, where Biden has failed us dramatically. And the fact that what we're seeing going on in the Middle East right now, I think woke up a lot of people. It also woke up a lot of people to say, well, maybe I should have some extra protection around my home. Who knows what could be coming our way. Just seeing how the poor people were attacked on the Jewish side of the divide there.
So let me get into like the typical normal American, right? The suburban mother, let's use her as an example. She's going to the grocery store, everything's skyrocketed in price. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to do whatever they can to do right now to put food on the table, and everybody continues to be more and more dead, especially the millennial generation. They go to school and they have this indoctrination that's going on. If you speak out against the alphabet mafia, then you're a racist and a bigot and you're a homophobe and everything else. And they're just they're just frustrated, obviously. What do you say to those folks to win their vote? Because I really feel, as conservatives, Republicans, if we get on message with the things that they've been doing with taking away parental rights, allowing men to compete against women in sports at the high school and college levels and everything else, is this insanity. If we just come together on several talking points, I think we clean house. I truly
No doubt.
that's
There's
the
no doubt. You're right on. Yeah, the American and Michigan moms, the electorate, they're not about putting in decency into our homes. They're not about the chemical or the surgical changes of a child, and those are things that we must absolutely protect against. And in our education system, we need competition in our education system. That's why I'm so excited about the Educational Children's Choice Act, the ECCA. I got to be part of that when it was first being launched back in February. What that allows us to do is, as independent taxpayers and business owners, is to take a tax credit. That money goes into an independent scholarship fund, not run by the government. And then kids from around our state and around the country can take a scholarship, and then they can go to the school they want. We need more than anything great education. And if you look at Detroit and Flint and Saginaw and some of the other Benton Harbor, I mean, there's a lot of schools that are really struggling. I mean, really struggling. Like they're not even able to read at level up at all the way up to the time they graduate. So this is something that is critical for Michigan. It's critical for the future, and these are the issues that hit home with the moms. You know, they when I talk about protecting the family, and I really mean it about all in all regards, and certainly making sure that they've got low cost health care. We need a serious healthcare overhaul because the system as it is right now is not working and it's going to bankrupt this country. If we were just to fix the healthcare system or diabetes, for goodness sakes, we would go a long way to getting things right financially. So those are the things that moms want and dads, and they also want the economy to work for them. That's when I talk about that, making sure that we drive down the cost. The best way we can drive down the cost is we got to stop the spending so that we don't continue to have inflation. Is make sure that we bring higher end jobs back home, and we have to lower regulations, and we have to make sure that our energy is the lowest possible cost it is. And as we sit here today, we have the lowest cost energy in the world. We continue to want to, for some reason, politically, the Democrats want to undo that, but we can continue to drive that cost down even further, which will help them be able to afford those groceries and their gas and their utility bills.
now moving forward to President Trump, obviously, are you looking for his endorsement?
I would definitely take his endorsement. Absolutely. I've actually met with Vivek a couple of times, and I've met with Governor DeSantis. I've met with Rick Scott and Tim Scott and Josh Hawley and JD Vance and Rand Paul. And I've actually talked about some of our policies, and we've gotten a warm reception on those. So the way that I look at this is that I'm the old bull. I want all their endorsements. I want all their support because I feel like that what the message that we have and the direction that I want to see the country is in alignment with all the above.
Yeah, amen to that. Michael, thank you so much for coming on today. Do you have anything else you'd like to tell the audience? It's your time, brother.
Well, thank you. I think that the most important, thing is that we have to start being Americans again. And what that means is that when we look at our neighbors, when we talk to the people in our communities, when we go to the grocery stores, we all deal with issues. And one of the things that I think we need to do is we need to start treating each other like we used to, and we should care and have respect and really look for the truth. And I think instead of going down this other alleyway of being a victim or being divisive and or trying to be attack people, I think we need to find places where we can be an American and really help each other out and do the right thing and grow our country and make sure it's protected and make it like how it was when I grew up. America literally was number one in every single area. You could compete with us in education, we'd whip your butt. Certainly our naval, our armies, we are still number one there, but we're not as strong as we used to be. And then our music, our arts, our education, our health, we were very healthy people. So all these things, what I think is really important to do is that we elect people that understand the bigger picture, are looking not just for the next 3 years, because one of the critical problems that we've been doing over and over is we keep electing people that are of and by the system. And that's why it's so important that we elect and get people that are Americans and that really want to love the country and make sure it's in good shape for the next 20, 30 years.
Awesome. Well said, brother. Well, thank you so much for your time. And again, folks, if you'd like to support him, sign up for his team. His website, Hoover for Senate, is in the description. Just click on it and go there if you like what he had to say today. So God bless you, Michael. Thank you so much for coming on.
God bless you, Garrett. Thanks again so much. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, sir. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye. Well, again, great people running, and ordinary folks who are not does not have a history in politics are running, putting their life, putting their business on the line to do the right thing. And that's why I'll do my part to continue to give them time to give you all exposure to allow you to see, hey, look, there's some really great people. Now, again, just like Dr. Sherry O'Donnell and the others, fundraising is going to be critical. I mean, again, and that's why, it's the same old song and dance with politics and fundraising. And we tend to think it's a fixed game because whoever has the most money can get their messaging on, can destroy the other candidate, can get name recognition, everything else. So it is tough. It is tough for these grassroots candidates who are trying to do good, but they need to have the fundraising. It's critical. It really, really is, especially with what the left is going to do and the amount of money that they have coming into their campaigns, because they are going to do everything that they can to paint this kind of narrative of what they're trying to do. And the Republicans got to come together. They have to come together to come up with some messaging and talking points and just hammer back. And that's the only way that we're going to do it. And I think we have an opportunity, especially with the school systems, transgender athletes competing with, the opposite sex. Title IX has been thrown out the window. Everything else is going on in our society right now. It's very, very forceful on what they're doing. And if you stand up against it, they attack you and label you and attack your business and so forth. We've already been through this. So again, if you like what Michael had to say, go to his website that's in the description and check him out. Do your due diligence. Again, that's why you will not see me endorse anyone before the primary. After the primaries, I'll have my endorsements. However, before, no. I do not like endorsements, meaning, hey, who's Garrett going to vote for? And that's who I'm going to vote for. It's not why I do this. I want you to do the homework. My job is to bring you these folks, allow you to hear them, and then you do your own research, ask the questions, and that's how you make your decision on who you want to vote for. Remember, endorsements and that kind of scheme got us into this, okay? So have a great day. God bless you. God bless the state of Michigan. Of course, and always, God bless these United States. Until next time.